Don't worry, we are friends.
Welcome back to day 2 at Cosmoverse. Today we are joined by David, who is VP of Strategy and Operations at dYdX Foundation. Maybe David, go ahead and give a little introduction to yourself.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. My name is David Gogel. I'm the VP of Strategy and Ops at dYdX Foundation. dYdX Foundation is a Switzerland-based nonprofit. Our mission is to support and grow the dYdX protocol ecosystem by enabling communities, developers, and decentralized governance. dYdX protocol is the largest decentralized exchange currently on Ethereum, focused on perpetual trading. We've done over $1 trillion in cumulative volume in the last 2 years, and we're right at the start of the next step of our journey, which is the dYdX chain, hence why we're at Cosmoverse. The dYdX v4 project is really focused on launching the next version of the protocol, which is an app chain on Cosmos that is focused on perpetuals trading and really leverages the Comet BFT proof-of-stake consensus mechanism to scale decentralized trading of perpetuals. So excited to chat more, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're more than welcome, and thanks for joining. So the first question that I'd be curious to learn about would be, why did you choose the Cosmos ecosystem to build on? You know, what technical specification make it especially suitable? And also, since on another podcast I heard one of you guys mention that you're very chain agnostic and you're just looking for the best tech. So what of these specifications make the Cosmos ecosystem specifically attractive?
Yeah, that's a great question. So dYdX has been around as a product, as a protocol since 2017. The product suite has evolved over time, but it's always been focused on non-custodial, decentralized trading for advanced financial products. So the first version of the protocol was on Ethereum, and that worked really well at the time. But then, with gas fees being really high, dYdX was one of the first major protocols to make the leap to layer 2, which is kind of the current version of the product, which is based on Starkware and their rollups. And that's allowed us to scale really rapidly. Again, $1 trillion in volume in cumulative volume is no small feat. But that's not enough. Today, dYdX has 1% of market share for perpetuals trading. Our goal is to become...
What's the overall market share of decentralized exchanges in perpetual trading compared to the centralized ones?
I mean, DEXs in general, definitely single digits. dYdX is 10 times bigger than kind of the next largest perpetuals DEX.
Would that be GMX?
Honestly, it changes based on the day. So yeah, GMX, perpetual protocol, honestly, yeah, there's always kind of new players coming in. But whether it's dYdX on the perpetual side or Uniswap on the spot side, relative to centralized exchanges, the volumes are quite small, right? And so if you're trying to build the largest exchange period, we truly believe that decentralization is how we win. And to be able to do that, you need to build something that is highly scalable, high throughput, low latency, low fees. And so about 2 years ago, the technical team at dYdX started to look at kind of different options, right? On Ethereum today, on the L1, maybe you get 5 transactions per second. On the L2, you get up to 100 transactions per second. But for really our use case, which is derivatives trading, high velocity, high frequency, you need a system that can really scale orders of magnitude much larger than that, right? If you think about our clients, which are high-frequency traders, market makers, they place a lot of orders, but only a small fraction of those orders actually get filled on-chain, about 1%. And so, looking at kind of the landscape, there's different L2s, different L1s. The beauty of Cosmos and the Cosmos SDK is really the ability to create a application chain that is really built for our use case, which is trading. You can really customize kind of the whole stack and really create a verticalized, vertically integrated kind of product and user experience that really benefits and is geared towards traders and exclusively traders. So that, yeah, that's kind of some of the decision around that. The key innovation here is validators will not only participate in building blocks and participating in consensus, but they'll actually also be running a version of the order book in memory and then gossiping orders across kind of the network, and then only filled orders will then be placed into consensus. And so that allows for an incredible amount of scalability while remaining a decentralized order book that is off-chain. So it's a really exciting project, and Cosmos is really the only kind of tech stack that could allow us to do that. Your second question was around, remind me what your second question was around?
Well, I mean, you said that you're very tech agnostic, so like, which specifications can you find that you can build in the Cosmos ecosystem that you couldn't build somewhere else?
Yeah, I think Antonio and the kind of product and engineering team from dYdX have been very clear that they don't want dYdX to be known as a Cosmos chain. Like ultimately, you don't use a product because it's built on a certain tech stack, and he feels very strongly that you want to build a product experience that looks and feels like a centralized exchange, but all of the back end and front end is completely decentralized, and that's what's really you're able to do here. Again, I would say that they're definitely not technology maximalists, they're product maximalists. Like they want to build the best user experience and abstract a lot of the complexity away for users to build a product that people love and that really meets kind of their job to be done and is kind of their go-to place for crypto trading.
So which metrics are you tracking and regularly looking at? I mean, probably also like you as a VP of strategy and ops, like you're probably pretty much very up to date of your like day-to-day use, adoption, and all of that stuff. So what would success look like? What metrics are you tracking on that way towards it? And what maybe are you still trying to catch up on a lot, and that might explain the very low market share of DEXs versus SEXs, especially in perpetuals trading?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a lot of different metrics that we look at. Again, at dYdX Foundation, we're much more focused on everything token, DAO, governance-related activities around the ecosystem. So right now we have 50,000 kind of unique wallet holders who hold dYdX. We've had, in the last 2 years, 70,000 or so unique wallets earn dYdX by using the platform. We've had 30 or so governance proposals where the community has voted to upgrade certain aspects of the protocol. And then we've had a very active kind of grants sub-DAO that's given several $1 million in capital to over 100 projects and teams working and building cool stuff around the protocol. So those are some of the metrics that I spend more time thinking about are really kind of the ecosystem around the protocol. On the exchange side, we look at kind of weekly active users, we look at page views, we look at fees generated, we look at volume. Generally, again, these have kind of followed the market, and the last year and a half, it's been a little more challenging, but I still think our market share has remained stable, if not slightly higher than it used to be. It's a software company, a tech stack, and ultimately, we like bear markets. It's an opportunity for us to continue to build and focus on trying to improve product market fit, and we're really excited about the upcoming launch of dYdX chain and how that'll impact kind of our metrics overall.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe since you touched on fees, the bear market, and trading volume, could you explain to our audience a little deeper how exactly does your business model work as dYdX, as a protocol? And in terms of, since you are also dealing with the token and governance a lot, what would the road to profitability look like? Are there any token emissions? Because, I mean, usually the traditional DEX model of the traditional AMM has been, you incentivize liquidity with your proprietary token, and then it kind of spirals downwards, with which we have seen in the price action of several Cosmos tokens. Where does dYdX do that better?
Yeah, so the current version of the token, it really is a governance and utility token. There's 1 billion tokens that were issued 2 years ago, and then various kind of pools to distribute those tokens to various participants in the ecosystem for an exchange. We're an order book based model. We're not an AMM. For a successful exchange, you need both taker volume and maker volume. And so there's been, incentive programs that have been designed that really kind of directly address those two types of behaviors on the exchange. I think in the last 2 years, the protocol's distributed 175 million or so tokens to, again, 70,000 unique wallet holders who have provided valuable service to the protocol at large. And then there's been a significant amount of tokens that accrue to the community treasury that is controlled via governance. And so one interesting thing that we've seen in the last 2 years is really our community start to think through how to reduce token emissions in line with kind of the market overall. I think token emissions were very successful in bootstrapping kind of the network and getting kind of original activity onboarded. But as volumes have changed and market dynamics have changed, we've seen the community effectively reduce both trading rewards and LP rewards by about 60%. And all of those emissions now accrue to the community treasury. So there's about, over 5 years now, 1/4 or 25% of the total supply that really is going to a community treasury that is controlled by governance. And we've seen kind of the community make decisions around how to use that community treasury to then fund various growth programs. That's how it exists today on V3. It really is a utility token that gives you kind of fee discounts, and then a governance token that allows you to participate in governance of the protocol. In dYdX V4, on the dYdX chain, we've had kind of a number of votes over the last few weeks that really add utility to the dYdX token. And so, as a proof-of-stake blockchain, the dYdX chain will require an L1 token to secure the network. And so the community has voted over the last few weeks to effectively use the current token as the main L1 token on the dYdX chain when and if it's deployed. And that'll allow people, stakers, to basically earn all fees from the protocol. So in V4, all fees will be distributed to validators and stakers. And so really in return for securing and staking the network and securing the network. And so that's a really significant change from a token economic standpoint relative to kind of what we have today. So overall, I would say the community is very focused on improving profitability and thinking about long-term sustainable organic growth. There is, an initial period where you have to bootstrap activity. You need to bootstrap token holders, users to migrate from Ethereum to the dYdX chain. And then ultimately really thinking through how do you build and scale a sustainable business model is something we've seen our community spend a lot more time discussing in our forums.
Moving towards looking at the general landscape of perpetuals and derivative DEXs in the Cosmos ecosystem and crypto at large, where do you think you differentiate yourself from competitors, especially looking at those that have generated a lot of hype over the last months, GMX, and these are ones that have been around but never really had their peak phase, Perpetual Protocol, Mango Markets, all of that stuff. Where do you want to position yourselves and differentiate yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, the space is still small. We welcome competition. I think it's always interesting to look at how other people address similar issues and problems that we think about. But, on this, what I said before is from a volume standpoint, we're 10x larger than kind of the next competitors combined, and we're really the only DEX that is focused on an order book based model. Like a lot of them, the ones that you mentioned, are all generally AMMs or some version of an AMM, which we just don't really fundamentally believe is the right form of capital formation for this type of trading product. So yeah, I mean, again, if you look at kind of the leaderboard of Perpetual's DEXs in the last 3 to 5 years, that list has changed pretty radically, and I think dYdX clearly has a pretty strong track record of continuing to dominate kind of that market by really focusing on the user experience and really catering to the large our target users, which really are market makers, institutions, and pro traders. That cohort of people really is not is less comfortable with kind of the AMM model, and that's been kind of one of our successes.
Considering the fact that you as a Perpetual DEX are, optimizing for a lot of high-frequency traders, market makers and stuff, like you are one of the few crypto-native entities that have to cooperate with these more TradFi emergent entities on a day-to-day basis. Could you elaborate a little deeper on how precisely that works? Like, how do you set up collaborations with them? How do you negotiate with them? Like, how do like payments or transactions work between a crypto-native protocol and a TradFi market maker?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think their needs are like that specific. I just think they're the type of servicing that they need, the type of APIs that they need. From even a technical standpoint, if you understand how they engage with different markets, what their trading strategies are, really building an API or a WebSocket or a TypeScript client or technology that makes it really easy for them to integrate. I think the hard part is, a given market maker is probably integrated on 10, 20, 50, 100 platforms, and every time, to integrate into a new platform, there's just like initial overhead. So the juice needs to be, or the juice needs to be worth the squeeze, and so. I think trying to reduce kind of that barrier to entry to reduce integration costs and make sure that, dYdX is kind of at the top of the list of projects that they want to integrate in. Again, if market makers like today, maybe they're active on centralized exchanges, if they're going to delve their toes into DeFi, like dYdX generally is the first kind of stop that they go to. Again, the order book based model is something that they're very familiar with. There's the added nuance of having to manage your own keys, and some have a lot of questions around like the security around that and how to manage their keys appropriately. And then again, connecting to the API, really building robust documentation that can be integrated with kind of their trade flows and systems that are already set up is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about.
Are you able to name any very present entities in terms of market making that are already on dYdX or planning to come there?
I can't give specific names. I mean, I think what's really interesting in like market making in kind of DeFi and DEX land versus centralized exchanges is we've actually seen market makers be way more public around kind of their activity on our exchange. So if you actually go to our forums, you've seen kind of market makers debate LP rewards in the past, which really are geared towards incentivizing liquidity on the platform, and it's pretty amazing. Like it's really people using their public names and their firms and building up their case, and so I think that sits with a lot of the ethos in DeFi, which is just being much more transparent around who's active on the platform. But we've seen a number of market makers launch governance proposals and be very active in the community and in our forums and kind of Discord and other channels. So yeah, don't really want to share specific names, but there's a lot of like public names on our forums for you to check out.
Sure. Maybe touching back on the competitive landscape, are there any plans to expand your product suite towards other types of derivatives or, other products that truly enable you to encompass everything that a centralized exchange offers?
Yeah, so the goal really is to build, the largest exchange period. And today, if you look at crypto markets, like 70–80% of total volumes are perpetuals. So if you want to be the largest exchange, you need to focus on perpetuals.
Do you think that it's going to remain that dominant, that perpetuals are going to take up that huge market share?
Yeah, I think if you look at traditional finance, like derivatives are orders of magnitude much larger than spot, and you already see that, in crypto, and I don't really see that changing. I think spot will continue to grow, perpetuals will continue to grow. We haven't really seen options or other types of kind of structured products really take off quite yet in crypto, and so that may come at some point. But yeah, I expect kind of the on a relative basis for that to remain quite consistent. Having said that, what's amazing about building an app chain is really creating kind of an infrastructure layer that is, again, much more customizable. So, if a community member wants to look at the open source code and figure out how to integrate spot or dated futures or structured products or options, you have a lot more kind of composability that can be built around a chain. And so ultimately, I think it's really important as a community for us to focus on one thing, deliver, execute. But as the market continues to evolve, and if there's demand for other products, I think there's a really solid kind of infrastructure to be able to build around that.
So what does the road ahead look like for dYdX?
Yeah, so I think the last 2 years has really been focused, at least from a product technology standpoint, on the dYdX v4, also known as the dYdX chain. I think in the last few weeks, again, the community has kind of adopted the open source code as the next version of the protocol, and adopted kind of the dYdX token as the main staking token on the dYdX chain. So I think in the next few weeks, you're likely to see the genesis of the dYdX chain, which obviously would be a huge milestone for the community at large. And then after that, you would see really the launch of trading on the dYdX chain. For the foundation, we have 50,000 active dYdX token holders. We think a lot about how do we support a migration and bridging process for community members who want to migrate to the next version of the platform. But I think it's a really exciting time for our ecosystem. I think a lot of the industry suffers from kind of a bear market, and we've been heads down building and shipping and leaning into making the protocol more decentralized and more robust. And I think we're really a few weeks away from kind of this next milestone for our ecosystem.
So any alpha to leak in terms of news announcements or soon launches?
No alpha to leak. I mean, I think we've seen the community, again, all public info, but for people who are tracking kind of our forums more closely, our community recently voted to launch an incentive program for 6 months to kind of reward early adopters and traders who migrate to the protocol. So that's quite exciting. And then again, I think if you read kind of the tea leaves, that I think you can expect kind of a launch in the imminent near future, which is really exciting.
Very nice. Definitely looking forward to it. Given I personally also have a TradFi background, so perpetuals trading is always an exciting thing to do for me personally as well. Maybe given that many people in the Cosmos ecosystem are not the typical DeFi degen and perpetual trader, but more deeply knowledgeable about the tech side of things. Do you have any advice, any tips for people who might be curious to try out dYdX? Any secret trading tips you were able to, distill out of having worked with a Perpetual project for years now?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really cool is that literally the whole code base is now fully open source. So, I think what's really interesting, whether you're a trader, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a hobbyist, everyone really has access to the same code and can build kind of around that. So I don't have specific kind of, again, there's no specific kind of alpha or tips, but I just think, I encourage anyone interested in learning more to look at the code, play around with it, ask questions, join our forums, join our Discord. We have a really active and growing community of hobbyists who are supportive and trying to build kind of interesting projects around V4, and we'd love to bring on new contributors.
What assets can people currently trade?
Yeah, so today, current version of the protocol has 30 or so perpetual markets. Everything is settled and margined in USDC. You can go long or short with up to 20 times leverage.
Is it going to be native USDC?
Yeah, so on the dYdX chain, USDC kind of natively issued by Noble will be kind of the main source of collateral for at least at launch. There'll be, right now there's kind of the third testnet of the dYdX chain. There's about 30 markets that are currently supported, and then governance can really add kind of new markets. And we expect permissionless markets to come at some point. So really allowing anyone to launch a market is something that the team and the ecosystem is really excited about.
Great. I think a great leap forward to gain more adoption and also to attract the long tail of users would be to have perpetual markets for the smaller assets as well. Just maybe somebody sees some really nice yield opportunities for a small altcoin, but they want to go delta neutral and hedge themselves, and now they find the perpetuals market for that on dYdX. So yeah, I think that it might not be a huge volume spike you generate through that, but I think it generates loyal users over time. So I think that's definitely something you could look into. Also, are there any plans to enable cross-collateral as it was possible to do on FTX?
At least at launch, I think the focus really is on single collateral. The accounts are kind of cross-margined, but it's one form of collateral. Agreed with you that that was a really awesome feature that FTX had. Unclear if that's what led to kind of their demise or not, in terms of kind of their risk modeling. I do think at some point it makes a lot of sense to try to figure out multi-collateral margining systems. Just really hard, I think, in crypto. Again, with kind of 90+% correlation between different assets, you really have to build a really robust kind of risk system. Something a lot of users have requested, and I think it's definitely something that the engineering and product team are thinking about. But I don't think it'll be available at launch, and but it's something that any community member can continue to think through and drive.
Yeah, I think if you have mastered to enable something like cross-collateral, there's really nothing you're lagging behind in compared to centralized exchanges. Unfortunately, already having to round up our conversation, where can people find you? Where can they follow dYdX, all the updates? Where can they try out your platform, first and foremost? Yeah,
absolutely. So people can follow me personally on Twitter. I'm David Gogel. They can follow dYdX Foundation, dYdX at dYdX Foundation, or the dYdX Exchange, which is just at dYdX. You can check out our website, dYdX.foundation. We published a semi-annual report about a month ago that really summarizes a lot of the activity of what's going on in the ecosystem. So it's probably the best place to get kind of up to speed. You can join our Discord. You can check out our forums at dYdX.forum. And then you can join the testnet. dYdX.exchange has access to the dYdX chain testnet. You can get some free funds, test out the product, see for yourself, and then stay tuned for Genesis.
All right, great. Anything else you'd like to share with our audience? Any last comments?
No, really excited to be at Cosmoverse and to meet a lot of interesting folks in this ecosystem, and stay tuned for what's coming up.
We definitely will. So thank you very much for joining, David. And yeah, see you around and see you on your platform, hopefully.